Naval Academy grad, F-18 squadron commander, and also a Top Gun graduate. So could you give us a little description about what happened to you in 2004?
We were going on a training mission, doing some air-to-air, which is 2 airplanes against 2 airplanes. USS Princeton, which is the cruiser in a battle group, canceled the operation, said we have real-world tasking, and they vectored us out to the west. And it was about 60 miles. So as you're driving out, they give you a bearing, range, and altitude call. So they tell you, hey, you've got to contact 270, 55, 20,000. And so we're looking for it on our radar. We don't see anything. My wingman is over on the left-hand side. We're an F-18F, so there's 2 people in each airplane. So I've got a weapon systems operator in my back. She's got one in her back. We start looking around. They call merge plot, which means a radar. The ship can't tell us in the blip. We just basically merged into one blip, so we're in the same piece of sky. So we started looking around. We look down to the right. We see some white water, which on this day, it's a clear San Diego, no white caps, light wind. It's like the perfect day.
Now I put this image up there. This was done by our storyboard artist, Robin Hernandez. He knocked those out real quick once I knew you were coming to the interview.
And this white water kind of stands out. And as we're looking down at it, we see a little tic-tac down below. You got a little depiction there. But it's kind of over the white water, and it's just moving, it's oriented north-south, and it's going up, forward, back, left, right, left, up, forward, back. It's just moving around. We're talking to each other going, holy cow, what is that? And then the cruiser's over there too, so you'll hear we tracked it all the way down. Well, they can't see the Earth is round, contrary to some people in California. But for most of us, the Earth is round, so when you get so far, there's what's called a radar horizon where it can't see you based on the mast height. So the way a cruiser is, we're pretty far away. They're not going to see it where it's moving around right now. So it obviously was up at 20,000. We went out there, and now it's sitting right above the surface of the water. So the first thing you look, you go, helicopter, not a helicopter. There's no rotor wash. So we see it moving around. So as we're driving, we get to 9 o'clock. I said, hey, I'm going to go check it out. The other pilot's like, hey, I'll stay high. So she stays up and starts circling around. And I start descending, and it's still pointing north. It's going up, forward, back, left, right. It's just kind of moving around that whitewater piece. As I get to 12, as I'm in my descent, I get to 12, the thing automatically just kind of turns about that fast, and it starts pointing kind of towards the west, in more of an east-west thing. And now it's mirroring me, and it starts coming up as I'm coming down. So it's obviously aware that we're there. We get all the way around the circle to I'm at about the 8 o'clock position, so the tic-tac is over at about the 2 o'clock, just a few thousand feet below us. And instead of just continuing around like this, I do like little kids do. You cut across, you do this. I go nose low, and I cut across the circle. So I'm going to kind of join on it like this. So as I'm pulling nose onto it, and it's coming up to my altitude, we get about co-altitude. It's about a half mile on my nose, and it just rapidly accelerates and disappears in a matter of about a second. It's just gone. So I asked the airplane above us. Now, the other airplane, keep in mind, is about 8,000 feet above us, totally different angle, looking over the blue water. I said, you guys see it? And they go, nope, it's gone. Don't see anything. So we turn around. And they're above me, and I say, hey, let's go look at the white water, and can't find that. There's no disturbance. We don't see it anymore. Oh, right there. We were right on top of it. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So we start turning back, and that's when the controller told us, hey, this thing's like 60 miles away. It just showed back up again, popped up on the radar. We saw the whole thing. We come back. We land. Kind of weird. We tell one of our crews it's taken off. So his pilot and the backseater's name's Chad. So Chad jumps in. I told him, hey, if you go find this thing. So he did. He got it on radar. It started to jam the radar. He automatically flopped over to the targeting pod, which is a passive track, which is the video that you see of the tic-tac just sitting in the middle of the screen. And then he's smart enough to go through all the modes. So he goes through the IR mode, the TV mode, and he looks at all the zoom angles, which is narrow, which is really zoomed in, medium, and then wide. So he goes through all those modes. There it is on the screen. And it breaks. The pilot is it's sitting up, the airplane, the F-18 is just going straight and level. The autopilot's on, actually. They're at 19,990 feet, and they're doing, I believe, like 251 knots right there. So they're just driving straight ahead, and this thing, as they get closer to it, this goes off. This is the whole video that you can get online. It's 1 minute, 30 seconds. There's rumors there's a 10-minute video. There's people saying they could watch it live stream. The technology at this time didn't exist, so they're kind of full of it. It looks better when we saw it real. We have bigger monitors, and I watched the original tapes and I actually copied them. And they were in a safe, and they probably just got taped over. They were wrapped in a thing that just said for the CO. And they went away. And that's the video. It was never investigated. Men in Black did not show up to take my tapes. Men in Black never came and talked to us, to anyone in my command. And that we were the six. There were 6 of us that were involved in this, the 4 that saw it visually and the 2 that were in the airplane that took the video. But it's funny that all these people showed up in suits and confiscated all this stuff except the stuff from the airplanes that actually saw it and did it. So 4,000 hours of flying has been defined by 5 minutes.
When you first saw it, what characteristics did it have that led you to believe that this is not a craft that I've seen before?
One, at first we thought it was a helo. There's no rotors. There's no rotor wash. So it's obviously not a helo. Then you think, what is it? Because it's obviously not an airplane. I mean, I've fought in all kinds of stuff, globally. I've went out, I've seen it, I've trained with them, from the Middle East to NATO operations to Brit airplanes, French airplanes, old airplanes, new airplanes, the entire U.S. Air Force inventory, all that stuff. So I've seen all of it. So you see something, you go, oh, it obviously looks like a Tic Tac. It doesn't have any wings. And we can't see any visible propulsion, which on an airplane, if it's flying, you don't see it. But in the IR thing, you would see it because there'd be a plume coming off the back. We don't see any of that stuff. So then it's like, what is this thing? And then the fact that it was sitting over the surface and all of a sudden it just reoriented itself and started climbing up to, it was probably, when we went after it, it was probably up to about 12,000 feet. And it never slowed, decelerated anything. It just turned and just started climbing like it was no big deal for it. We don't have airplanes that can really do that. Not that easy. And then to accelerate in the blink of an eye and just disappear, we don't have anything that does that. Now, you can go, well, maybe it was some experimental thing that the government had. Let's just look at some realities. One, the government doesn't typically test things out in open areas because if they crash them, lose them, or one of them hit us, then there's a big problem. Number 2 is, for that type of technology that we saw, especially knowing that it wasn't a normal propulsion system because there was no plume, there's no heat signature. You can look at it on the FLIR. That's when the screen's black and the Tic Tac is white. You also got to keep in mind that they had been tracking these for a week. They were coming from above 80,000 feet. They just dropped down to 20,000 feet. They hang out for like 3 hours, then they go straight back up. Okay, now when you're talking something that goes from 20 just up, like at no problem, and the radar goes right off the top of the radar scan. You guys all watched I don't know if you watched the SpaceX launch, if you're a kid like me and watched Apollo, you can watch those things for a while.
Oh yeah.
You can sit and watch them and go, oh, they're hitting their M crit. They got to slow down until they push through that wave because of the shock waves and the forces on the airplane. Then it goes off. These things are just moving around at will. So, all the debunkers out there, Nick West included, are just, most of those guys have no idea what they're talking about when they're talking about military hardware and how the systems actually operate, except, I don't know, they read it on Google or they read on the internet, and everything on the internet's true. So.
When you saw it, it was on the surface above you said it looked like breakers over something that was just below the surface, the cross. Yeah. How long did it take for it to get to your altitude? And did it come up in a horizontal manner, or did it point its nose and come up? How did it do that? It came up
just like it was mirroring me. So I'm in a descending right-hand turn, and it was in a climbing right-hand turn. So just think of it on a circle. It's called a 2-circle fight, where it's coming up, we're going down. So it's literally mimicking me. So as I come down, it comes up. I come down. So I dropped from we were about 20,000 feet. So I get down to about 15. So I'm not in a big, you got to watch over water, especially when you're not paying attention. Anyone that's been in an airplane, the ocean looks the same at 25,000 feet as it does at 5,000 feet. Honestly, when it happened, we came back, we caught a bunch of guff from the folks on the boat. But 2 days later, it was like, we got to move on. I had to run a squadron. We're in the middle of workups. This was, I took command. I got command of the squadron about a month prior to this. It was rolling after the first few days, except for a few people that would want to talk about it all the time. It was moving, and then no one investigated it until about 2009. All of a sudden, I got a call from someone who said, "Hey, we're going to investigate this." It was a government person. There's a report. The report's out there. A lot of them have been redacted, but I know there's an unredacted version of it out there, which does not make me happy. I call it the unofficial official report. So it was done One of those guys, actually, the guy who did it actually worked for ATIP, and ATIP was FOIA exempt. So when people go, oh, I asked for these reports, I never got it because I had heard about this.
Right.
That piece, that 20-page, I think it's probably about 15 pages long. It was FOIA exempt. So even if you put in a FOIA request, it didn't go out. And I know that because I talked to Lou Elizondo, who ran ATIP, who has the original FOIA members, and the piece of paper that says they're all FOIA, all their work is FOIA exempt. Because they wanted to kind of keep a little bit of a lid on it while they were doing stuff, but it wasn't classified. It's just, we're not going to release it if people ask for it.
I wanted to bring up the gimbal video real quick. And I know that was on the East Coast and you weren't in that, but I know you know those guys really well because the F-18, Navy F-18 community is pretty small. I'm just going to play it here.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like another thing, it's rotating.
So the jets they're flying, same Super Hornets, just newer radar. So the radar on this thing is the APG-79, which is a phased array. When he says look on the ASA, there's an SA display, situational awareness. There's actually a fleet of these things that the radar is picking up. So the big thing is what you're seeing in the middle here. When he says LNS, that's the primary target. He's looking at this on the targeting FLIR because the targeting FLIR can only look at one thing at a time. Below it, there's like a V. Think everyone's seen ducks or the Canadian geese because they're all over here right now. The Canadian geese they fly in a V. So there's a group of these things that are in a V and they're actually flying out in front of it. And then all of a sudden, as they get closer to the airplane that's filming it, it turns around. The V turns around and that's where they're filming this thing. And then, matter of fact, it's the same crew who shot this one that shot the Go Fast. That's the other video that's out there. They're just out flying. They're just in a steady left-hand turn, tracking that thing. There was actually a lot of people that had seen these things on radar. People didn't throw their targeting pods out a lot to look at them. This was not an unknown thing in the Hornet community on the East Coast. Talking to those guys, there's at least 60 other people that have seen them on radar and watched them do wild stuff like rapid accelerations and disappear. They'll see them. And then, when you first get it's a radar glitch. That radar is pretty good. It doesn't get a lot of glitches, I'll just say that. So when they first were seeing them until they put the targeting pod on one, they thought they were ghost tracks. Only to find out they weren't ghost tracks. There was actually something there.
Once things kind of calmed down and you had a chance to kind of sit back in your easy chair and kind of think about this, the closest thing I could say, but I agree with your hypothesis as well, is that this is some experiment from DARPA or something else. But as you pointed out, this happened in 2004. Between 2004 and now, something would have came out about a technology that would be this advanced. And we have nothing really close to that right now. So when you had a chance to think about this, did it kind of change your worldview or change, I don't know if you're religious or not, but did it kind of change your perspective?
For me, no. I've been obsessed with the whole space. Like this, the whole reason I flew is I watched the Apollo programs when I was little. So I was basically 4 years and 11 months old when I watched Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. So at that point, I was always, when you look up in space, well, there's billions and billions of planets up there. I used to roll my head back at night and turn on the night vision goggles. You can turn all lights down so you can see everything. You can see satellites flying over. You can see the entire Milky Way. I mean, it's just incredible when you get away from ambient light. And in the middle Pacific, there's no light pollution. There's nothing there. So you can see stars like just everyone's been out on a country road when it's clear night and you go, wow, I can't believe all the stars. Well, there's probably exponentially more stars out there than what you can see. I look at it and go, if we're the only planet that's inhabited, I go, pretty lonely galaxy. I would just be shocked that if you had a technology that could propel a vessel of what we saw to the performance that we witnessed, and you hit it for 16 years because it would literally change everything that we believe in and do. I think if it was our technology, we'd have perfected it even more. And whoever owns that technology, it's a game changer.
You were in the Navy for over 20 years, right? So you retired and you have an oceanography degree. So if it was a natural phenomenon, that would be something you would immediately recognize.
Oh, yeah. See, if you go through all because I get called on stuff. There's a couple people who call me because they're into this. I'm not like a giant UFO guy.
Right. Same here. I'm not either.
hey, this debunker's saying this, and I'm like, no, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Pod doesn't work that way. It's all, and there's people that do the debunking, but it's why I don't really talk anymore. This is rare that I'm doing this, but you're an Ohio guy and a former fighter guy.
And I appreciate it too.
It's the only reason you're going to find me. I said after I did Rogan, I would do no more. And I did two things. I did Tucker Carlson because I turned him down twice. One of them was on the day of. And then the new article came out that they're changing this, and now they've admitted they have this. It's a funded program. It's run out of Austin Naval Intelligence. I'm kind of hoping, honestly, because I'm just like everybody else. I have a curiosity, and I said this on Tucker. You know, Roswell was what, 70, 71, 73 years ago. It was 47, 73 years ago. Normally classifications, it'll say declassify after 40 or 50 years. Well, 73, it's a good time to declassify. You know, the Manhattan Project was super, super classified too, which when we built the atom bomb. And now if you're a really, really smart high school kid in physics, which has been done, they figure out how to do the math to calculate critical mass. You know, and the government usually comes in and takes their science project away because they really don't want that out in the public. But there are people, if you understand the math, because math isn't classified, you can figure a lot of stuff out. So, you know, open up the vault. We have a tendency to classify a lot of stuff, and Project Blue Book did that. You know, their job was to investigate and disprove at all costs. You know, and I joke about Roswell. I was joking about it the other day. You know, they came out the day it happened. Oh my God, a spaceship crashed. We have evidence. And the next day it was a weather balloon, and they're showing pieces of Mylar. I'm like, really? And you want us to believe all that?
You don't seek the limelight. I had to tell you I'd cut your grass and wash your car to get you to come and do this interview. I thought about this the other night. I gave it 4 different scenarios. One, a natural phenomenon, which that practicality is virtually 0. I looked at, could this be a government disinformation program? I discount that because it's over 15 years old, and why would the Navy risk the credit of its F-18 fighter pilots to do a disinformation program? And I didn't see any reason why you would do a different disinformation program. There are other circumstances where I would see where a disinformation program would be helpful, like if there was a nuclear accident. I know they did some of that back in the 50s when there were nuclear accidents and things, and they tried to say, oh, it was a UFO. I don't see that here. I don't see any evidence of that. So that leaves us with 2 possibilities. It's DARPA or some group within the U.S. military or otherwise that has an advanced craft, or another country, but we discredited that because it's been over 15 years. Again, that technology would have leaked out. And that leaves us with one explanation. Hearing your description of how this craft moved, that it might be some extraterrestrial origin. It's at least interesting to think about. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Dave, that you hadn't been covered in any other interviews that you might want to say about your experience?
No, the only thing I would say is, you know, the story's been the same. It's been the same since 2004 when we chased it. It is what it is. It's a cool story. It was a great story. Like my friends, before this ever came out, like, my wife kind of knew about it, but she didn't know all the details. I don't even know if my kids even knew. They probably had heard me talking to someone. It was usually a great thing over beers. You know, your buds would go, hey, what's the coolest thing you ever saw? And I go, oh, I chased this UFO. And they go, what? I go, no, seriously. You know, all my friends know me. So, you know, like I had a friend of mine, when it broke, he's one of my best friends. He works with a lot of Air Force F-16 guys, some Viper drivers. And they called him up. They were like, hey, do you know this guy? Like I'm a whack job. And he's like, yeah. They're like, well, what do you think? And he goes, you believe him? And he's like, yeah, 100%. He goes, the guy's not lying. He goes, I've known him, and we've known each other since 1993. So 37 years we've known each other, right? 27 years. I got to do my math right. Yeah. So, no, it's, you know, and then I got told, oh, hey, you know, the New York Times thing, you're going to make a bunch of money. You don't make money. I actually don't charge. I've charged twice. And it wasn't for me to talk, because I'll talk for free. It was for my time. I spent a weekend someplace, which literally shot my whole weekend, and I like my weekends. And I flew to LA and back in a day, which was an 18-hour day for me, to talk for like 15 minutes. I'm like, you can pay me for my time, because that's it. But if you want the story, you can show up in front of my house, and I'll give you the story. The other side is, and I would encourage you, don't believe everything you read and hear on the internet. Most of the internet experts, let me get this on. Internet experts are not experts at all.
Right.
I don't know. They might have seen a picture of an F-18, and all of a sudden they're weapon systems experts and they're math experts.
Right.
I'll tell you that I work with I literally cannot swing a dead cat where I go to work and not hit a PhD. And I don't mean like a PhD of a liberal art. I'm talking hardcore scientists,
Right.
engineering, applied math, brilliant geniuses. I'm just saying the people that I work with are going, yeah, that would be really hard to figure out because they've looked at this stuff, especially without a ranging piece, and there's no ranging. There's a couple of the videos that have a bit of a ranging where you can see. So just, it is what it is. I'm not even telling you to believe me, because personally, we all know what we saw.
Right.
People go, what if you were by yourself? Because I used to fly single seat F-18s. I said, world would probably never know.
Right.
But no, because it was a great story. It was fun to drink beers about. But when 4 of you see it and 4 of you have the same story and 4 of you vividly remember this, then we've talked. And 3 of the 4 of us have talked. The one will probably never talk.
A question came to mind while you were talking there, and I wanted to ask prior to us getting together. Because I know in another video they said there was active jamming.
Yeah.
Now, you got that sense that this thing was actually actively jamming your radar, or it wasn't just a? What's that?
I saw it. It's not a. This is not a joke. So there's like I said, you can record 2 displays. Okay, so the one recorder in the airplane, you saw the Tic Tac video. That's coming off the left display. So the Hornet doesn't film. We used to have cameras that looked at it. It actually pulls the direct digital feed off the back. So whatever's going in to give you the picture, and the displays in a Super Hornet are not CRTs, the old ones were. They're literally the same as your computer screen. It's an LCD screen. So it's literally pulling the digital feed right off, and it's putting it onto high 8mm tape. So it's digitally injected onto a magnetic tape. I think they're full of digital recorders now. Okay, so what he does is when he first sees it, he gets a hit on the radar because the targeting pod is just kind of staring straight ahead. It doesn't do anything until you get, when that guy said LNS, that's your launch and steering, your primary target. So as soon as Chad goes to try and lock up this radar hit that he gets, because he doesn't know what it is, it's just a little green square on your screen. As soon as he goes to lock it up, what happens is a radar basically goes to stare at that thing. And as soon as it starts staring, it's sending out a ton of energy because it's trying to lock it. And when it locks it, it's going on. Relative to me, I know your range, I know your altitude, and I can actually, as I track you, I'll get your speed and your aspects. It will tell me, oh, you're going this way, and it'll tell me how fast you're going. Same way like a police radar gun would do, it does Doppler.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does, though, is the radar has the ability to know when it's being jammed. So it sends out a signal goes out, signal comes back. It knows there's someone messed with the signal coming back. And there's a bunch of things. It can play with range and make it look different. It can change velocities. It can do all kinds of things, right?
Gotcha.
So what it does is it puts these strobes up. So from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, above and below the target, it will give you these, we call it a B trace. It's double lines. And depending on what it's doing, it will tell you what it's doing, and it gives some other indications. We have an aspect vector. It'll get long. If it's accelerating, it'll spin around like a clock that's messing with its aspect. It does all kinds of things. As soon as he goes to lock the thing, it starts jamming the radar. There's a bunch of stuff that comes up on the screen. And Chad's smart enough, because in the Super Hornet, in the F, you're sitting in the back and you got a left and a right side stick controller. So he just, the left side, he can just castle. He just moves one little button and it'll go from, because he's got another radar display. So the right radar display is telling you azimuth, left and right, and range. And the one he's got on the right tells you azimuth, left and right, and up and down. So it's like looking at a cutout. So a guy could be at 10 miles, a guy could be at 50 miles, and if one's high and one's low, all you're going to do is see a blip, one's high and one's low.
Gotcha.
On the scope on the right, you'd see one at 10 miles and one way out at 50 miles. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So what Chad does, the azimuth elevation, which is on the left, as soon as it starts jamming, the FLIR pod is already looking there because he's already commanded all the systems in the airplane to look down that line of bearing.
Gotcha.
He casts over that pod, which is, the thing's really out in front of him. It's like 2 degrees left or something, so it's kind of right out here. The FLIR goes boop and starts looking at it. So as soon as he castles, he doesn't care about the radar. He's got the image that you see here, and once he's got control of it, then he castles and he locks it passively. So what it's doing is it's bringing in a picture, and then the system itself to the picture is it's looking at the pixels. So you got white pixels and dark pixels.
Gotcha.
And it puts little bars up on top that says, this is the image that I'm tracking based on the pixel difference that you told me to track. It's like contrast. So as he switches back and forth, it's basically just blocking off that contrast to go, people have seen it when you have your iPhone and you start tapping on stuff and the focus, it puts little bars around it, says this is where you're focusing. It's kind of similar. You can see right there. So it's got those bars and it's saying that's a track. And you can see here that I'm in video mode, and now it's IR. And if you look at the top middle, it says TV. Now it says IR. He's changing the field of view on it. So that's all that's happening. But because now it's a passive track, you're giving no indications to the other system that you're tracking it. You're just looking at it, So it's the easiest way to describe what that thing's doing. Contrary to the internet experts who they've flown with it. I mean, I can't tell you, well over 1,000 hours of driving around with these pods. So
right. It looks like a pretty high fidelity system from what I've seen. It wasn't, unfortunately, the A10 we had we had the Maverick. We would use the Maverick FLIR as that was our target pod. Now they have the Lightning pod. I wasn't in the C model, but we had to use we literally went to the desert to do Operation Southern Watch at night, and we used the Maverick missile, the FLIR on that as our FLIR. We didn't have a pod. That's what we used. It's like 2 degrees of field of view. Imagine that. It's like looking through a soda straw. So you would program your INS to a point that you wanted to do recce on, and you would slew it to the INS box, put the wagon wheel of the Maverick up there, and look at that point. And that was our FLIR. That's what we used before they came out. We didn't even have night vision goggles. We were over there flying post Gulf War I. No NVGs. We didn't get those till later. And we even had a Garmin GPS. We had a Garmin GPS to back up the INS.
Yeah, we
had Velcro. We Velcroed it to the canopy rail.
We had a Trimble flight mate. They'd get on their knees. The BNs would fly with it when I was in the E6. The Hornet, the system's a little bit better, and we didn't get GPS until late 90s.
Wow.
We were putting GPS in the airplanes.
Yeah.
And now it's like the systems are so accurate with the Litton 251 ring laser gyros and the GPS. It's just like it took the work out of, it literally leads you right to it. You just go, oh, it's right there.
Yeah, we were up there cruising around just south of Baghdad with the Garmin GPS Velcroed to the canopy rail because, we were afraid the INS would drift and get us across the 38th parallel or whatever it was there and get us into trouble. And then no night vision goggles. We had the FLIR on the Maverick missile. And that's it, 2 degree field of view, and we're up there rooting around. It was kind of, we didn't know any better at the time. That's what we had, so that's what we used. And now it's, you've got the Lightning pod, which I guess talking to other A10 guys, the Lightning pod is really great.
Yeah, so. Lightning is an awesome pod. Actually, it was the Marines were using that Vice, the AT FLIR. The AT FLIR is actually built around the Super Hornet, and then they put it on the Legacy Hornets and gave it a much more. The Lightning pod had a bunch of capabilities in it. The AT FLIR that we had was basically a FLIR and a TV, and then the Navy went back and paid even more money to Raytheon to put in the trackers and the grid stuff that the Lightning pod already had. It's a good system. It actually bore sights. There was actually a nav FLIR in it too that we got turned off because it worked really well, but no one was going to use it. I used to play with it because I was a night vision low guy, so I'd fly around at night low on goggles, which was really kind of crazy but fun. So.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you coming and talking to us again. You wouldn't have been here. I talked to some of your buds and they said you're a stand-up guy, no nonsense, and everybody thought the world of you that I talked to, and that's why I decided to give you a call to see if you'd come out and talk to us. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah. I appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch, Dave, for sure.
No problem, Dave. Enjoyed it.
All right. Have a good night, sir.
All right. You too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.